Welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Hopkins. By day, I work in corporate, but I have an obsession with all things personal development. So I became a life coach and started this podcast as a way to help others break free from living a life that's good on the outside and wake up to the one they actually want. When I got to my most uncertain place, all I wanted was someone to say, "Hey, Alicia, you're a little off course and this is what you need to do." That's what I want to be for you. This podcast is a place where I want to share my experiences and provide you with community, knowledge, and inspiration to make change in your life. Sometimes we get a little lost and need help course correcting. If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Let this be your wake-up call. Now let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Wake Up Call podcast. I am very honored to have today's guest, and this conversation we're about to have is very important and one that I hope to have more of on the podcast. And it's around mental health and normalizing the conversation around it. I think far too many of us are suffering in silence with things that are going on internally with us. And my guest today, I really feel like she's putting a name, a face, a person with what it's like to be living with mental health challenges. Lauren Dow is amazing, as you are soon going to find out, but she knows what it's like all too well. As a suicide survivor who has struggled with bipolar disorder, major depression, eating disorders, and anxiety, Lauren absolutely knows what it's like to feel like you're alone. And part of her message through her recovery and the work that she's doing, we're going to get into that. She's an author. Her social media is just so powerful, but she's really here to remind us that you're not alone in this beautiful mess of a journey we call life. So Lauren, thank you so much for being here today. And I just really appreciate your vulnerability and openness to sharing more about your experience with mental health illnesses. And I'm curious if you could start with letting us know a little bit of how did you first come to know or have like a recognition that what you were feeling or experiencing wasn't right?
Well, first off, I just want to say, thank you for that introduction because I think even you just saying that and hearing, it's interesting hearing other people say to me, what these things that I've gone through and that I currently experience and I have been experiencing my whole life, and how it still almost doesn't feel that it doesn't feel right sometimes, but I think there's no like right or wrong. There's, that whole concept of quote unquote normal, what normal is. But I think when I started to experience this imbalance in my life, I've had it for a long time. I mean, probably when I was a teenager, that's when I know my mom was pushing me to go see someone. And I did. I saw a psychiatrist, but it just left a poor taste in my mouth about mental health care because I'm 18 years old and they write me a script within 20 minutes and then send me on my way. And I think you don't even want to hear about my struggles. So why do they matter? Like, I'm not going to take this medication. You don't even know me. So I didn't take any medication or anything for a long time. And then I always felt sad, like profoundly sad, but I just thought that that's how people felt sad. I was like, this is all I know. And I never talked about it because I was kind of brought up in a way that was saying, if you express these feelings, if you express these thoughts, then, you're not normal. Something's wrong with you. You're broken. And so as time went on, I got older, I was like in my 20s. And then I went on this big backpacking trip with my previous partner at the time. And I got really, really sick. I don't know if it was like the food or the cutting board. I didn't clean it well enough or whatever, but I got really, really sick. And for 2 weeks, I couldn't keep a single thing down. And I lost a tremendous amount of weight. Plus I'm carrying my life on my back. I'm hiking all of these mountains. And then I post on social media, I'm like, well, I have to post on Instagram because if I didn't post, then it didn't happen. Right. So, I started to share some of my travel experiences, and that's when the comments started flooding in. And people were saying how fit I looked and how amazing I looked. And this whole time I've had a poor relationship with food, but it was through binge eating. And now I thought, here's a new way to fill the void. It's not with food, it's by controlling how I look and basically not eating. That's like the moral of it. That's what it boiled down to. But eventually along the way, I got too sick. I remember doing the final hike, and it was like a 3 or 4 day trek in Juarez, Peru. And I got out of the tent and I immediately just fell down. And I said, I'm like, this is not okay. Like this isn't right. Like I need to get help. I need to put my feet on the ground. I need something, because something is not right. Through the depression followed me no matter how far I ran, which just manifested into all of these eating disorders, trying to control all of the things that felt out of control, and also feeling validated. I think a lot of my life, I felt like I was disposable. Like, I felt like at any point someone could just toss me aside for an upgrade, and that I didn't really matter all that much. But the validation from other people, I was like, well, that fits me. I need that. I need that. So yeah, once I kind of stationed myself in Denver, I started getting real help. I started therapy, support groups, and even in just this last 4 or 5 months, I got the diagnosis for bipolar disorder and have started medication since. I mean, it's been a journey, and it's kind of an ongoing journey. But I guess long story short, that's kind of the I don't know, process, I guess, of how I came to realize when something wasn't right.
It's wild to me that while the experiences I've gone through have been different, right? Like I've shared on this podcast, anxiety has been this like backbone in my life. And at various times it's been debilitating, other times not. But my point is that I very much relate to what you say of that you just kind of think that that's like what you're experiencing is just what it is, like that you don't know anything different. When you said like the profound sadness you're feeling, like that's just, oh, that's just what you experience, right?
Mhm.
And something that I appreciate so much about you being open and sharing what it has looked like for you is because I think that we do have a tendency of thinking like the reality we're experiencing is just the way it is. And it's helpful to hear more voices of people saying what their experience when things aren't okay, so that
Mhm.
I almost think it gives others like language or validates them to know that they're wait, maybe I'm not alone in what I'm experiencing, and there can
Right.
be something else available for me. So, I'm curious to know, before you got to the place of proactively taking steps like therapy and, pursuing treatments, like I find myself wanting to say, like, what could an average day be like for you? But then again, I'm guessing it was probably peaks and valleys of experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I had these high highs of, what I now know as mania, and I would make these like very impulsive decisions, or my mind was racing so fast. I mean, I remember multiple times where like I'd get an idea in my head and I would cover my entire walls with just sheets of paper that I would tape to the walls. It looked like a beautiful mind. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it was just like all over the place, planning out my next big adventure and where I was going to go and how I was going to do it. And, it all, people saw it as like, oh, she's a wanderlust. And I'm like, maybe, but I think it's something a little more. But then, once I'd kind of come down from this, I'd have these extreme lows where I couldn't get out of bed for sometimes days, and I would stare at the wall because it was like the wall didn't have expectations of me. And if I like looked away from the wall, then I'd have to recognize all of the nothingness that was waiting for me, like it was just like this impending doom that I couldn't look away from the wall. So I mean, it wasn't like it was hard, but then there would be moments of like this crazy excitement, and then it would just come back down, and then some days it would kind of level out. And it honestly hasn't been until I started medication for me to understand what like the natural human experience of emotion is. And I mean, even now, like when I still have moments where like I feel sad. I can recognize them more, and it's almost in this way that I can control them. Like I've found a way to control, but I was like, something's not right. The medication's not working. I'm feeling sad. And it's like, no, no, no. Like people just feel sad sometimes. I just don't know what that's like. So I mean, an average day could, I mean, it could be it could be a wide spectrum for me.
As you were sharing that, it's almost like I envisioned that you're relearning how to experience emotions, or and even experiencing like different emotions, or them not being as extreme. I mean, it's just really redefining your relationship with what are human emotions and like how they now take place in your body and mind.
100%. I mean, we went camping probably a month or so ago, and it was like by a river. And I like stood out on the rocks by myself. And I kid you not, it felt like I was hearing the river for the very first time. I was like, how have I not experienced how beautiful and amazing and magical just the sound of water really is? Like, it's the weirdest thing because it just, everything has always felt like this, like, whomping sound, kind of like how, like, Charlie Brown and the adults, it's the womp, 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 womp. Like that's what it felt like. And yeah, so I'm kind of feel like I'm like relearning a lot of things, a lot of emotions, a lot of experiences. Yeah, learning to walk.
I and I want to touch on this here in a little bit, but in some of your writing, I remember coming across something to the effect of that you were saying like you fought so hard to experience like the simple joys in like everyday life. This is like you hearing the river for like a first time. Like it's interesting to me of just how we overlook like the miracles that are all around us, like many of us, because we're distracted, we're this, we're that, but like you are literally experiencing life through a different lens because of what you now have from medication, going to the therapy, like doing the work. And I'm curious if you would share, because this is a conversation I've had with friends too, of coming to the place where you decided that medication was the right thing for you. Walk me through like how did you get to that point? Because I think it is something that out there is still a stigma that many of us feel or experience of like, oh God, I have to take something to be normal, or like, and when really
Hmm.
it's like, if it's giving you your joy back, like take the pill, right? But I'm
Yeah.
curious of like what was your resistance to it, and how did you get over the hump to realize like maybe this is something I need to be open to?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this with someone the other day because I don't know if you've seen about like, well, you saw the poster pill campaign that's going around, which has been incredible. And just hearing other people's stories, like if you're listening, read them on Instagram, on social media, they're so good. But my personal experience, so mental illness runs in my family. Multiple people have various degrees of different mental illnesses. And so when my mom had always pushed me, like I said, to get medication, but I liked how you said the language, because it was totally about the language for me. The people who were pushing me, even my therapist a couple years ago, the people that were pushing me, what I was hearing was them telling me that I needed medication, reiterating the idea that like I'm broken, something's wrong with me. There wasn't any validation for someone to say like, I want you to be able to live a life that you want to live for you. Everything that they said reiterated, get better to make my life easier, which completely removes any element of control, which removes any means of validation. It never felt like it came from a place of love. And so I resisted for a long time because I was like, I'm already screwed up. that's been shown to me many a time. So why am I going to slap a label on my forehead for everybody to read because I take medication? That's what I thought at the time. As time went on, more therapy, more reiteration of living the life that I deserve, the life that I want. And the more that I started to learn about, okay, well, what is the kind of life that I do want to live? What do I want my future to look like? Is this it? Is this all it's going to be? And, you know, through various circumstances, I learned that it was not what I wanted my life to be. So during COVID, I lost my job. So I had no insurance or anything. And getting actual medication, seeing a psychiatrist was really expensive. So I waited. But then I almost was like procrastinating, because then once my financial situation became better, I was like, oh, it's still a lot of money. Is it worth it? I was putting like a dollar sign on my existence pretty much, like, because again, I still didn't fully wholeheartedly believe that I wasn't broken. I was like preaching it to the choir, and yet I wasn't even believing it myself, that I wasn't worth it. And so being with my partner now, he has been a huge advocate for me in getting the help that I need, because it's hard when you struggle with things like depression and anxiety, because it makes even the smallest things really hard. Scheduling an appointment, going to the pharmacy, like those things are really hard. And I almost backed out of it when I was in line at the pharmacy and they told me what the actual price was going to be. And I was like, what? And he said, no, we're going to figure this out. Like, this is what's going to happen. So eventually, like, I finally got the medication. I got it all sorted out and I started, but it was not like just a jump decision. It took me years to finally get to the point where I believed deep down in my core that I'm worth it, and that medication doesn't mean I'm broken. That medication simply means that I just need assistance, but there's nothing wrong with me as a person. So until I was able to believe that, there was, no one could do that for me. I had to be able to do that myself.
God, you touch on so many things that just like my wheels are spinning. And it's like we are conditioned in our world now that like something's wrong, fix it. Like, here's the pill, here's the this, here's the that. But when there's something much deeper going on here. And I think that it's very easy for us when you're going through something that you're struggling and you're in a place that you need medication, but like you walking us through like the process like shows how it ultimately became like your empowered decision, but you had to know your worth first. And to me, it's like, I think I better understand now when a lot of your writing and, the things that I see on social media, I see that word, I see two words. I see like deserve, like you're deserving, and you worthy. Like you put that back, like when people comment on, your posts and things like that, I see those words coming up, and I think I get it now. It's like you had to go through your own journey of even feeling like deserving of the life that you deserve, that like that is
Yeah.
brings happiness to you, that you are worth it, like worth every penny or struggle or fight
Yeah.
to be whole, to be good.
Yeah. I can't go back, but I do wish that those kinds of words were reiterated to me at a younger age. I really, really do. Not to like, you know, blow up my ego and be like, here's a participation award, you are worthy. But I mean, like, truly, as a human being, like, I matter and I have worth. And I think that would have made a huge difference in my road to recovery. I don't regret it because it's brought me to exactly where I am. And I'm going to keep pushing out the same language that I wish other people had said to me, or, you know, maybe I could have sought it out. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to keep reiterating that to other people.
Well, it's so powerful. And, as I was thinking about like the conversation we were going to have today and thinking about, what do we do to really change the narrative around mental health? And what it is just talking about it. And like you said, like sharing the things that you wish you that would have been, said to you, modeled to you, whatever to you, because the more we can bring awareness to that and make that more known or mainstream, I think that's where we start, right? Like, I don't know how you ever solve like the crisis that is like mental health in our country, but I do know that there's power in talking about experiences and not hiding in like, I shouldn't even say hiding, staying quiet because we feel shame or embarrassment or and quite frankly, there's probably some times that like just staying like hidden is all you can, it's like survival at that moment too. Like you're just trying to get through the day some days.
Right. And I know that not everyone, is meant to, put their personal experiences on blast. But I know that there are people out there who feel called and compelled to do so. And that is what I felt. I felt like God was saying something more to me. I if it wasn't for other people sharing their stories, I don't think I'd be where I am now, genuinely. I mean, the whole thing that kind of set the wheels in motion for me was I saw this one girl who she posted about it on Instagram, and she was just like so boldly talking about how her experiences impact her life and with mental health, and how she was a suicide survivor, and how she's a warrior for fighting and for pushing through and for getting the help that she needed. And I was like, dang, recovery is possible. I'm not just like being told, but I'm seeing someone in action. Like the people at my support group, like they weren't putting their stuff on blast. They found a safe space to be able to share their stories. And then when I got to see people actually like in recovery, like recovered, I was like, okay, this is possible for me. Like I can take the next step forward. Like this is the real deal. So yeah, I'm appreciative of the people who are able to share their story and to, take off the masks. Cause that's kind of what I feel like I did, remove the masks that I was wearing.
So I'm curious to know, like, when you are saying like it's possible to be recovered and like get through recovery, what does recovery mean to you? Like, how do you now relate to that word? Like, how does it show up in your life that you feel, right, that you're saying you're in recovery? Like, what exactly does that mean?
For me, it's, in terms of my eating disorder, I view recovery as loving myself more than I love my eating disorder, because control was obviously a huge factor for me. But now recovery means that I have control over, my little monster voice of a disorder that speaks in my head. Um, I have a better relationship with food because I have a better relationship with myself. I think that's recovery for me, and it's an ongoing process. It's not linear. There's no, I don't, I couldn't tell you if there's like a beginning and an end, but I can proudly say that I'm recovered, because even though like the thoughts are still there, I do not let them prevail. Like I do not let them win. So therefore, I am recovered, and it's a choice that I make like every single day of my life.
Oh my God. So amazing. Like I just full body goosebumps everywhere. I just thank you for sharing, like, and being so like vulnerable and real. And something that, I know came that was birthed out of your recovery was your book. But I'd love for you, would you share, because your book didn't necessarily start out as your book per se. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your book came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So in therapy, um, as a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, my therapist suggested that I start writing. I I write about what it is I'm feeling and kind of work backwards to be like, okay, this is the emotion. Now I'm putting a name to the emotion. What was I doing at the exact time when that emotion started? And kind of like, what could I have done differently before I reached the peak? Things like that. So I'm writing every single day. But then also I have this other part of therapy where my my therapist is saying, it might be a cool idea. Just think about it. If you like personify your eating disorder, like give it a name, give it a personality. What does it wear? What does it do for a living? Like give it like a whole just person, whole being. And I was like, yeah, that's a cute idea. No thanks. Because that seems scary. But things are easier to face if you can name them. And so I was using writing to like create this person, which I named Amelia. And I'm writing through every single day what I'm going through, what I'm doing, my exact emotions. And once I shared my story about struggling with eating disorders and depression online, and I was like, I saw all of the response that I was getting, and people were like coming out of the woodwork being like, suffer from this. I struggle with this. Like, I'm so grateful that you said that. And I was like, what if this could help other people? What if my story really could make an impact in somebody else's life, even if it's just one other person? It's going to help me. Maybe it'll help me find some closure and it help me move forward with my life a little bit more. So I took a big step and took this therapy that I was doing and turned it into a book. And here we are, Embody I Trust, out in the world.
And I have to say, I am reading Embody I Trust right now. I'm about halfway through, and I am really, when I say that you're putting a name and a face to what it is like to be getting through each day with mental health illness, like I have had struggles, but they are far different than, and I'm sure everyone can feel everyone's struggle is their own, but it has been really eye-opening. And I feel such like, I don't know if the right word is like empathy or compassion. Like it almost is like, the saying that like you hear people say, you never know what struggle someone's going through. Like, I don't, right. Like you can see someone on the
Mhm.
outside, but you don't know what they're carrying on the inside. Like for me, I'm really like, that's just really holding true for me as far as like, we really don't know what someone's day to day is like. Like we see that like an image that is put out there or whatever, like the face that's put forward. But um it just gives me a lot of pause and like really honoring that like life is hard for a lot of us, and
Yeah.
I'm I think that your book is really powerful, and I really do think that it's making an impact and going to make a big impact on anybody that reads it for all
Thank
the
you.
reasons we've talked about. But you just beautifully describe your experience. And I think it's important for us to know what, like, we just need to be talking more about this stuff as I can get on a soapbox, but I just feel
No,
so
thank you.
strongly. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and I mean, even though like you don't go through these specific types of struggles, knowing that you're reading it and you're finding something from it, that's so important too, because, I don't think that the words that I wrote are necessarily just for the people that are going through it. I think it's a way to educate people. And like you said, empathize, find more compassion in how to how to navigate a world with them, to really get inside the mind and know what it's really like. That it's, I think a lot of the stigma around it, and I say this a lot, is that, people say you're talking about mental health because it's a cry for attention, but no, it's a cry for help. And like, that's what I think is just going to humanize a lot of these things. And I love what you said about like, everyone has their own set of struggles. And I was reading, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Goff, but I was reading one of his books, and he said the moment that he really learned what it meant to like humanize someone is when he's just walking down the street and he looks somebody directly in the eye and he thinks, what are they going through right now? Because everybody's going through something. It might not look exactly like your picture that you've painted, but it they're going through something. And there's nothing more, I think, humanizing than being able to come together and say, hey, I'm struggling. Let's just be there for each other. Let's just listen, you know?
100%. And think about like, gosh, we talk about like what could make things different in the world of mental health, or even like, how do you create a ripple effect? And I think it's with what you just said, it's humanizing. It's, what if we treated each other with a little bit more kindness and consideration, and just like treating people like humans? We're so damn distracted in our own stuff and phones and like all this BS, when it's really like,
Yeah.
when we just get down to basics and the simple things of like, let's just treat each other like humans, and like be there, like you said, just listen and humanize the experience of someone else, you know?
Yeah.
In your book too, I'm telling you, I love your book.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, it's just really, it's really left a mark on me. But you, in the preface of your book, you wrote at one point that you wouldn't have been able to believe in a future for yourself. And I'm curious to know now, what kind of future for yourself do you see?
I see a whole world of possibility. Um, I see God very prominently, because I think for a long time I put my faith on the back burner because, I thought God was punishing me. But I see a world of God. I see a world of community. Um, because again, like I pushed people away for so long, and I took for granted so many people in my life because of the situation that I went through. And yeah, I see people. I think that's one of the biggest things I see for myself, is I see a world of people, because I thought I was alone for so long, and I'm not alone. Like, nobody is really alone. Like, there is a world, there is a community out there for you, whatever it looks like. So I think for me, my future is hopefully moving to North Carolina soon. My future is starting a family. My future is going to keep writing books and connecting with people like you, like whoever it is I meet along the way. I don't know. I don't know what's out there for me, but we'll see.
But you hit the nail on the head of possibility, which at one point that wasn't even probably like a word in your vocabulary when you thought about your
Not at
future.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
So for someone out there that is listening to this and they're going through it, they're struggling, they're, really just in it, no matter what the struggle is, like, what's one thing you would want that person out there to hear today?
I think I want them to know that whatever they're feeling is 100% okay, and that your feelings are valid, and that you deserve to be validated, because you matter, your feelings matter, and you matter, and you're not alone. That's what I want them to know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for those words. Like, I don't think there's anything more I even need to add to that. But what I do want to add is, how do people know about you? How do they connect with you on social? How do they get your book? Tell us all the good stuff.
Yes. Well, you can learn all of the details at laurendow.com, and you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Lauren Dow Writes. I just started a TikTok. I don't even know what I'm doing. So Lauren Dow Writes on TikTok now, apparently. So we'll see how that goes. God, I feel old.
Oh my God. I know, when the whole, I mean, like, I only know, like, I haven't yet to do a TikTok account, but like, I see the TikTok videos, like the people share on Instagram, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I can do it. I feel too old, but I enjoy other people's. So, but I'm going to look for yours now.
I jumped on the bandwagon, so we'll see how it goes.
It's amazing. But guys, do follow Lauren. I'm telling you, when she's putting out just real life is what I'm going to say. And I feel so strongly about that, because the more that we all can just be honest and real about what we're experiencing, I think we give permission for others to do the same. So I really I appreciate your time. And guys, also, I want you to check out this book, and I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway of Lauren's book. So what I want for you to do is rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts. I got tongue tied there. And what I want you to do is screenshot your review and DM it to me on Instagram at Alicia D. Hopkins. And I'm going to choose one review to get a copy of Lauren's book. I really think it's important that this book gets out there. So, Lauren, thank you for being here today, for sharing your story. I know that your words are so meaningful and have made a difference in those that are hearing them. So, and for all of the listeners out there, thank you for joining me for another episode. And I can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Wake Up Call podcast. If you liked what you heard today, I would love for you to subscribe and leave a review. It takes just a few minutes and does wonders for helping other people find the podcast. If you want to connect outside of the podcast, you can do so by following at Alicia D. Hopkins on Instagram. And if you really liked the episode you just listened to, do me a favor. Would you screenshot the episode and tag me? I would love to see what's resonating with you. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope today's episode helped you to see that you can wake up to the change that's possible in your life.